Welcome to the Simple Life Homesteading the Pioneer Way. This is Brenda Weatherly. Today I'm going to do a simple sourdough starter. I have had people ask me about sourdough breads. I bake and sell sourdough breads as well as butter and cheeses and different things. I posted on my Facebook group page, The Simple Life Homesteading the Pioneer Way. It's a closed group. If you ask to join, I will let you in. Where we're trying to learn how to do all these pioneer homesteading crafts and just actually a way of life. So I have posted several different starters from the oldest to the newest ways that I know. And this is one of the simplest. And what you do is you put an equal amount of flour and water into a jar. And as usual, I'm holding a phone with one hand and trying to do this with the other. So if I make a mess, I make a mess. Won't be the first time, it won't be the last. And so that's not like 1 cup. It's actually, believe it or not, we don't eat Vienna sausages and we don't eat potted meat. But I bought a can of Viennas and potted just to get the little cans. The Vienna's a little taller, the potted meat's a little smaller. But I put a hole in them, a little slit in the bottom. I use them to cut, scones and all kind of baking things that's used for. But anyway, you get your bread flour. Well, actually, that's just regular all-purpose flour. You could, I guess, use self-rising flour. It just got salt in it. But anyway, and I do about the same amount of water. And that's all there is to it. I am going to put a lid on this just so I could shake it up. And let me pause just a minute and tighten that lid. The lid tightened, and I wanted to tighten it so I could shake this really well. And once it's shaken really well and gotten the flour, almost broke a glass, guys. When I get the flour and the water incorporated real well, then what you're going to do is open the lid and just put a damp towel or just a dry towel, whatever, piece of broadcloth or cheesecloth or whatever, just something lightly over it, and leave this for 2 or 3 days. And what's going to happen is the natural yeast in the air is going to ferment this, and after 2 or 3 days you'll see it bubbling. When it starts bubbling, you have a sourdough starter, and you will never have to use yeast. You'll never have to buy yeast again. You keep this going for years. The first sourdough starter I had was over 100 years old, kept being handed down from generation to generation. And if you're fortunate enough to have that, that's wonderful. But you can start this today, and it can last for hundreds of years. And what you do is when you make bread, if you take a cup out, or if you take 2 cups out, whatever you have to use in the recipe, you replenish that. And all you do is if you take 1 cup of flour out, when you take 1 cup of starter out, you would replace it with 1 cup of flour and 1 cup of water and shake it up and leave it out for a day or 2, and then put it in the refrigerator. Then when you make bread, all you've got to do is take it out, and if it calls for 1 cup of starter or 2 cups of starter, what you do is you put a cup of flour in it and stir it up well, and then you pour a cup or 2, whatever the recipe calls for, and then you replenish it with a cup or 2 of flour and water for the next use. And so you're feeding this every week, whether or not you make bread. If you do not desire to make bread, you have to feed it anyway, because you have to keep it going. And it's really simple, it's really easy, and it's really yummy. So I hope you guys make sourdough starter, and I hope you make sourdough breads. And when I make sourdough bread next time, like I said, this will take 2 or 3 days It may take longer, but when you check it every day or two, and when you see it bubbling and smelling like beer, you know that it is a natural yeast, or it's sometimes called a mother. And voila, there you have it. An old world. This was done in Egypt centuries ago. They've been making breads forever. And it's really simple and really neat to never have to go out and buy yeast to make some bread. You'll always have the ingredients for bread. If you've got flour and water and a little salt and starter, you can make a bread. So this is Brenda Weatherly from The Simple Life, Homesteading the Pioneer Way, saying, keep homesteading.